Hello and welcome back to another part of Design Your Own Level tutorial. In this video what we'll be doing is we'll be doing some UV unwrapping, and then we'll be trying to apply a texture to this area over here. But as this is, again, if you go over to our reference, you don't really see much texture in this. That just kind of like looks like a reflection of the roughness map over there. And the same with the sides over here. We don't need to stress too much about having a good looking UV map. So what we did in previous videos, we created these two, we compared the sizes inside of Unreal just to try and like get the look that we're going for. But for this video, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to ignore this one completely. I'm just actually want to select these. Okay, I think I like joined everything in one group. I'm just going to, okay, linked, P, separate by selection, and I'm actually just going to delete all of this. The reason why I'm doing that is I want to focus to do UV unwrapping on our one that we got looking the way that we wanted. And then afterwards, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it and then change scaling and everything, but the UV map should pretty much still remain the same. So we shouldn't see much problem with that. So let's just select this one, select everything. I'm going to split off the view and go into the UV image editor. For those of you that know Blender, there is actually just like an option here at the top where you can go into UV editing and it will like give you an option of your model and all of that. But I don't like using that. I just like splitting off my own view over here. All right. And then we're going to just create a new image. We're going to call this window borders 24. The texture resolution doesn't really matter for what we're creating here. And then I'm just going to go into UV Smart Project and click OK. And that is actually pretty good for what we want. Essentially, we want this one to be a black color, and then this one is going to be like the gray color. So everything over here seems to be okay. What I just might want to do is I just might want to set my island margins a little bit higher. Okay, that's maybe a bit too high. Let's just try 0.03. And the reason for that is I don't want anything to like bleed over to another side. And actually there's a thing that I see over here as well. I'm just going to hide this, is that these sides will never be seen, yet we still have them. So this is, you know what, I'm just going to actually like select all of these. I'm going to hit delete, and I'm going to select this one, delete its top face, and this one, delete the bottom face, and delete the side of these, this one over here. Okay, to try and simplify the whole process, what I'm going to do is I'm going to UV project this. Now you see not much has actually changed, but considering that this is going to use exactly the same surface area as all the rest, we can just duplicate this. So just do this, we can hit Control L to select length and go into the front view, and then hit Shift D, Shift D, Shift D. Until we get what we want. There we go. But now what we've done is you'll see that when I select the top face of every single one, it's got the same UV space. And if we select, you'll see we don't see the other ones over there. That is because all of these will use like the same UV over there. So unless you want to like write something different on every single one, for them to have the same UV space is not going to be a problem. And also, for any of you that's watching this video thinking that it might mess up my light maps, I'll cover light maps later on, but essentially for the lower detail models, Unreal is generating the light maps for you. There isn't a problem with it, so don't worry about it. I also actually could have deleted these sides over here, because that's something you will never ever see. But as it doesn't actually take up much UV space, I'm just going to ignore it for now. Okay, so now we've done that, and we've set up our UV map, and that's essentially this model done. But in all the other videos, what I did is I used materials, different materials on like the different options. Now I'm still going to do that in this one, but I just want to say that in the end of this tutorial, when we're doing our touch-up work, we are going to use texture masking. We are going to do cleanup work on all of these models. So this is just a quick way for me to get the model in and to get like different materials assigned to it. So I'm just going to click that one. I'm going to click assign. I'm going to select all of these. Select L to select linked, new, and click assign. So now they have two materials assigned to them, so we can actually export it quickly to Unreal just for a test. And let's import it. We're just going to replace the one that's already there. Okay, and open it, and then you'll see it's got two materials. So we can actually start to see what it will look like. We can do our generic black material. Let's see which one it is. There we go, that looks okay. And our pipe general material, we can actually try that and see what that looks like on this one over here. It's maybe a bit too shiny, but it's just to give us a general idea of what this would look like. So let's see. That's way too shiny. I don't like it. Let's try the couch legs that we created before, which was just like a general matte color. That actually looks pretty good. It works very well, doesn't shine through too bad. So I think I'm gonna kind of like go with that one. I'm just going to like build lighting to see if it will make a difference, because we added like these areas over here. So I'm just gonna click build and then pause the video. Alright, it didn't quite do what I wanted it to do, so I just kind of like removed the roof so I can like start to see what everything looks like over here. And it looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. I was thinking of maybe we can round off the edges a little bit. I think they kind of beveled them on this over here. That's not required. It is one of those minor details that you will probably never see, so I'm not too concerned about that. So as we already UV unwrapped this, and okay, let's just join everything together, and everything is set up. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to duplicate this and then go into, let's select this, into my object mode, or edit mode, sorry, and I'm going to select these, and then I'm going to move it back to like 3 meters, and then do the same with these 3 meters, and then this one, copy it. I think we that looks okay. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to export both of these at the same time, because then they should like stack up right next to one another. So if we replace this, just as another test, so kind of just want to like keep on going through it and seeing what you want to do. This actually doesn't look that bad. Well, let's actually play in selected viewport and then see. So yeah, I actually think inside of Mirror's Edge this window is still slightly larger, but I'm not going to stress about that too much. 2 meters looks okay to me. You can see outside, you'll probably be able to see the city itself. I think inside, if we do a comparison, their one is probably, see, I judged that to be about 1 meter, so their one is about 1, 2, 3, 3.5 meters probably, and I did mine at 2 meters. You can still always fix this. There's no issues in doing it, and so we can actually quickly try and do that. Let's set this one to 3 meters and then move it up. So it's basically above that one over there. I think that's where it was there. Alright, okay. Jump over to Blender. And I'm going to grab the top of this one and this one. Just going to drag it. Oh, I need to be in my face or wireless mode. This is a little bit of the problems you get if you're working off of a reference image that you don't have any of the sizes for. And Unreal scaling does seem to be like a little bit different, as mentioned in previous videos. So I'm just going to take these and I'm going to space them out a little bit more, so we might not have to put in additional ones. Maybe we're gonna have to put in one additional one, but let's just see. No, I'm not gonna put an additional one. Okay, so now that we've done this, I am with both of them selected. I'm just going to export them again as is for another test. Why did I select that one? There we go. And hopefully this will be like our last import, so that it's for testing purposes. And yes, we're just gonna overwrite it and click import. If we hit play, we'll see that, does that look better? It depends on what you're trying to go for. I think it looks okay. Slightly better, might want to do it wider. So I think we're going to go with the 3 meter one. So I'm just going to like redo all the scaling with all of them. I showed you now how to do it. It's not that difficult. You can just like redo it. So I'm just going to jump into Blender and then redo this one. And then essentially from here, as we finish this, it's just the same process over and over. We're just going to create a new one and just keep on going. I actually think that this one should be like our new base. Let's delete this as well and select this one. So this one should actually be centered over here. Is that the center? I think it is. Yeah. So this one's going to be like our new base. We're going to ignore that one. And this one's going to be our new base, and for the new sizes, this is going to be the small one, and then we're just going to work off of that. We're going to make a larger one, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's it. I'm just going to, this is like our finalized one. We've already set up the materials for it. Nothing has changed with the materials, even though I've deleted things and added things. If you go into your UV image editor, you'll see that everything is still there. Exactly the way set up that we did before, so we don't need to worry about that. If we duplicate this and then just change the scaling or change the position, all the UV maps will still be there and they'll just be duplicated. So you don't need to worry about that. So that is this one finished. So I'm just going to create 1 or 2 more, which I'm going to skip it in this video. I'm just going to pause it here and then create the other ones. And then when we're finished, we're going to put everything into Unreal Engine 4. I'm going to show you how to do the glass material and all of that. So let's just get to doing that. Alright, so there is my setup done. I've decided to create 3 of these. So this is my basic, this is my first one we started with. This was 3 meters wide. I created a 5 meter wide one and then a 1.5. which is probably going to be one that we will have as a window that we can open. So now, if you look at the models and we just go to our UV maps here quickly, just look at it again, that this was our basis model, our start one, and there's its UV map. And there's our other one, there's its UV map, and there's the last one. there's its UV map. So they all share the same UV map, though they're not the same model. They all share the same UV map because we just copied it off of the start model as such. So don't worry too much that we don't have a texture assigned to it, because we're just going to assign a standard material to it. And it's not going to matter as long as we have UV maps. If you don't have a texture assigned to it inside of Blender, that doesn't matter. You can always assign a texture to it inside of Unreal Engine 4 later, or if you want to paint a texture. But as we're not really going to use that information, for our purposes, that doesn't matter at all. Okay, so what we're just going to do now is we just want to export all these models to Unreal Engine 4. Now, as I said with previous videos, bear in mind that the pivot point for your model is not going to be the one inside of Blender. It will be the world center. So that, if you hit Shift C, where your 3D cursor centers over there. So if you go into the top view, you'll see it like that. So what you want to do is, because this is a fairly square model, you want its center point to basically be on one of its corners, not anywhere here in the center, because you want the model to stack up nicely. So what I mean by that is that essentially, if we move all of these together like so, I'm just going to move them all to center. If you hold Control, it snaps to grid when you're grabbing. And I'm actually just going to move each one to a separate layer just to try and keep some order. There we go. So now if we cycle through our layers, you'll see that there's all of our models. Now, if I'm just going to select this first one, and I'm just going to hit File, Export, FBX, and I don't think we have any smoothing groups applied to our model, but let's just go through the process. Selected models, geometries, we're going to hit Edge Detect and disable the leaf bone. And I think I'm going to create a... No, we already created a folder. I'm just going to call this one... which one was this? This was the large one. So we have 3 sizes, so I'm just going to go with window border, window large, and just make sure that all these options are the way they're supposed to be, and I'm going to export. And then I'm going to do the same with the other ones. Export, window, medium, and then the last one. I think I might have messed up with that previous one's name, but it's okay, we can always rename it in Unreal. And then we're just going to, as you can see, here's our previous window borders. So I'm just going to go over to my models tab here. I'm going to click import, because this is basically going to be our final models. And then just go over there. There we go, and I'm just going to import these ones quickly. And just click import on all of them. They don't have any additional options. They're not skeletal meshes, so I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, so now you'll remember that this was our previous test, and because we just kind of like exported it randomly to test it, that's where its pivot point is. So now if I drag one of these other ones in, and you remember how we restructured it, there is its pivot point on the corner, and all of them are going to have a pivot point at exactly the same corner, which makes it very handy, because then we could just like stack them up and we'll know they're going to blend together perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to delete our old test model. I think it's over here. Here we go, because we don't need it anymore. And then I'm just kind of like going to stack everything in the world where we want it to be. So let's do it like this. It might be best for you to go into one of your side views or for this. So I'm just doing everything by eye at the moment, and it looks terrible. So let's just try it here. We do have grid snapping enabled, so I'm just going to like line them up here. Actually, I think I want this one to be on like the side over here. Okay, so let's just have a look here. Okay, I have a multi-screen setup. I use more than one monitor, so normally I just have like a different setup for the viewport on one of my other monitors. So for me to do this like so is a little bit strange, but we're probably gonna get the same result. So okay, well, let's just go into the top view, Alt J and then Alt K. So we're just going to go into the top view, and then I'm just going to move everything up. That's that one. This is the one that we want on the corner, and we're going to just use our BSB brush that we set up before as our reference, because it has to line up with that. Okay, and then I'm just going to take this one, holding Alt, I'm going to duplicate it and drag it off, and holding Alt again. And I think we're going to overlap just like a little bit, but that's okay. I wanted that to happen because I want to show you what we're going to do. As I said, I wasn't too sure if we're going to get our sizes correct or anything like that, so I wanted to make sure that it does overlap just a little bit, so that we can basically take this one and we could just like have a look. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to replace it with our medium one that we have over here. I could have just hit replace actor, but I think the position might still have been off a little bit. So there we go, and I'm just going to line it up. That looks okay. So that's pretty much set up the way that we want it now. So if you're happy with that, what I'm going to do here, okay, this one is just a little bit too high. I'm just bring it down. I'm just going to select all of them. Now, eventually, we're probably going to merge all of them together so they're like one model. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to the side here. And then just to show you what we can do with our subtract brush, I think it was called box brush, I should really just start naming these properly, is we can either scale it or just move it. And if we move it just a little bit, and you can see there we can start adding things like pillars in between. So bearing that in mind, what I'm going to do here is, let's move it all the way to there. I'm going to set the scale, let's say, to half of that. So we're going to go with 9.5. Alright, and then I'm just going to like kind of move it to where I want it to be. Let's say to somewhere along the lines of, actually it will cover that entire section over there. So let's say that this section we're going to keep a wall, and then we're going to have a repeating section over here. Let's just quickly rename this subtract brush, so that if we type in subtract, we'll find it immediately. And then this one, I'm just going to, let's just duplicate it, holding Alt, and I'm just going to like drag it off and paste it like over there. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to just duplicate this one, so that we kind of like start adding in like borders in between the windows, so that it's not just the window itself that is breaking the seams or anything over here. It is actually that we have physical wall over here, so that it's, instead of you just like looking, oh, window, we're like, okay, here the wall meets, and then in between here there's like structural support, so we can actually maybe add a pillar over here. So that is how we're going to do this one. We can actually shrink this one. I think these ones we made 3 meters, I think it was. So let's make this one 6. I didn't move it out. Yeah, we made that. So now we have all of those set up, and we can essentially just take this box brush that we made over here. Let's just see. There's one subtracting volume we call box brush. We can delete that, and we can actually just go through all of these and duplicate them, and then just copy them over here and just rotate. So let's quickly do that. Okay, and then subtract. So we're going to shift. Okay, it's not going to select all of those together. So let's copy these ones off first. Holding Alt, we're going to drag them off. And space bar, we're going to rotate. And once again, this should be actually something that you do in top view or side view. I just like seeing things happen while I'm busy doing it. And that one, we're just kind of like going to judge the size, so I think that should be okay. And then we're going to select those two, the subtract brushes, holding Alt. We're going to drag them off. We're going to rotate them as well. And let's see. Luckily with this, we'll see like an instant change. And over there. Now this one isn't going to matter too much, but I actually think we got it pretty good. We're like a small little gap off, as you can see over there. But it's not going to matter too much because we still need to add a wall on this side over here. So now. There we go. And then I can just actually take all of these. Come now. There. I'm always selecting something in the background, so that's why I keep reselecting. I could just do that. I don't actually have to move these ones up. Or do I? Yeah, the wall does overlap there a little bit, so let's just move them up. Okay, so now we have our windows fitted perfectly. We still just have to reset up the wall material for this. What we're going to do now is, I think this is another long video, so I'm just going to stop it here. And this is essentially our Windows setup done. I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. We could just like hit play and then just see. There you go, so they actually meet up quite nicely. And they look pretty good. I'm very happy with the scaling that we did at the end. Lighting might just need to be rebuilt, but as we still need to apply material to this, which before we end the video we can quickly do that. We're just going to use that generic table and the couch leg material for them. So we can go into the models. I'm going to open all three of them and then just go over to our materials, and let's just see here. Select the couch leg. Okay, we don't want it for the side. Actually here it's not really going to matter. It depends on what type of look you want to give it. So let's make all of those ones black and all of these ones silver. And save, save, save. And now if we actually go into it, we should see. There we go. Much better looking material set up for it. Though I don't think I really want a reflective material on this black piece over here. I want something a little bit more along the lines of the silver. So we can maybe just duplicate the silver or make a material instance and replace this one over here. But everything now looks pretty good. Now we actually get like a sense of scale in the level, because now we're actually like looking outside and we're starting to make some progress. Okay, I know I said in the previous video we're going to do the glass material setup, but essentially it's going to be a very easy setup. We can quickly do it. Let's just go back. Remember when we set up our scaling size over here, we made like this plane over here. So I'm just going to move this plane to a different layer. And if you recall this plane, then you know what I'm talking about. Essentially, this was a plane that we judged by the size of our wall. We made it 19 meters wide and 2 meters tall. And it should actually be 3 meters now because we adjusted sizes. So I'm just going to, let's just quickly try and shift center this, set origin to center of mass, so it's a little bit better. Okay, there we go. And then I'm just going to move its pivot point over there, so it meets up with the center. And we'll see, you can see it's a completely flat surface, flat plane. And what I just want to do, I just want to UV unwrap it. It's not really going to be necessary, but with this one, what I'm going to use, I'm going to go into the side view so that I can see the whole thing, and I'm going to hit U to unwrap, and I'm going to hit project from view with bounds. Now what this is fairly handy if you're using flat surfaces. So if you go to your UV image editor, you'll see that it actually fills up the entire section over there. So if you have like a flat plane or anything and just quickly want to do some UV unwrapping, hit U, project from view with bounds. If you just do the normal project from view, you'll see that's what it looks like. And with the bounds, it tries to actually fill the entire gap over there. Okay, so as I said, let's just quickly do the glass material. So I'm just going to call this glass. And I know this is a model that I'm currently busy with, but bear with me. I'm just going to import it and drag it into the world. We're not going to see the one side because I haven't made it double-sided. And then we just kind of have to like line it up where we want the glass to be. So I'm going to say the glass is going to be on the outside. And we'll see here, okay, that's actually perfect. And then we could just kind of like line it up with this side over here. Essentially what I figured might be a little bit better to do is to create a plane on the back of each one of these and UV unwrap it separately and then apply it. But just for quick reference, we're just going to do this. I'm just going to go to materials now. I'm going to use the glass panel. Now, if you can recall, it's this one over here that we created. And I'm just going to duplicate this one because I'm going to mess around with the color and we haven't gotten actually to making material instances yet. So for those of you wondering what a material instance is, that's something we're going to cover at the end. I'm just going to go into, let's just find a content browser. There we go. I'm just going to open that, go back to materials, and then the glass panel 2 that we created, we can just call this glass window. I'm going to use that. Click save, and then we should see it update. There we go. But now if you look from the outside, you'll see that, okay, there is a slight glass material here, but if you look from the inside, you won't see anything. So in order for us to fix that, we actually need to go into the material and then we're just going to set it to two-sided and click apply. And then we can also just work on a different, let's just see actually how that, as you can see, that actually panned out pretty good. I actually like the way that it looks. The color is the only thing that bugs me, so we're going to go with like a standard whitish color. Click OK. Okay, that's a bit too much of a dark gray. There we go. And we can now look at it. You might not see it immediately. But it is going to, there we go, as you can see. But now we're going to have all this artifacting on this side, which means it might be a little bit better for us if we just actually create it per object, which we might cover later on. But for now, this actually works pretty good, as this level is just at this current moment just going to be viewed from the inside. I'm not going to stress too much about that material setup right now. So that's just like a basic glass surface that we made. So this brings us to the end of this tutorial. I know this was a fairly long process as well, but if you actually take into account how much we covered inside of this area over here, it is actually pretty big. So that's the one video still playing over there. So if you guys like what you saw, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Leave a comment down below. Please subscribe, and I will see all of you in the next video.